Ryan Mitchell had seen many things during his years of building a billion-dollar company from scratch, but nothing prepared him for this moment. The cold Arizona wind rustled the bushes behind the diner as he watched the little Apache girl devour the sandwich he'd bought her. Her small hands shook, not from the evening chill, but from days of fear and hunger. Ryan crouched slowly, studying the wooden eagle she clutched. It wasn't a toy, it looked sacred, carved with precision and love. Whoever made it cared deeply for her. That alone told him this child didn't belong out here. Inside the diner, the workers were unfazed. One waitress shrugged when Ryan asked about the girl. She's been around for days. Nobody knows where she came from. Someone else added. Cops came once, but she ran off. Ryan felt anger rise in his chest. How could they ignore a child this vulnerable? Outside, Sky, as she called herself, sat curled against the wall, eyes darting anxiously at every passing car. Ryan could see the fear in her. She startled at noises, flinched at footsteps, and held that wooden eagle like a lifeline. As night approached, the temperature dropped sharply, and the wind carried the scent of distant rain. Ryan knew he couldn't leave her there. He wrapped his jacket around her small shoulders and carried her to his SUV. She trembled, looking back toward the empty road as if expecting something, or someone, to appear. "You're safe," Ryan whispered. She didn't respond, but she leaned slightly against him, exhausted. The drive back to his estate was silent except for Sky's uneven breathing and the soft rattling of the wooden carving in her hand. Ryan's house sat on a hill overlooking the darkened desert, warm lights glowing through the tall windows. He made her soup, set out blankets, and placed a nightlight in the guest room. But Sky didn't want the bed. She curled up on the floor near the door, as if afraid someone might break in. Ryan sat beside her until she fell asleep, the wooden eagle tucked under her chin. Every few minutes, she twitched or whimpered. That's when he realized she hadn't just been wandering, she had been running. And whatever she was running from had carved deep fear into her tiny heart. At around 2 in the morning, a piercing scream tore through the house. Ryan rushed into the room to find Sky trapped in a nightmare, kicking and clawing at the air. "No, no," she cried in Apache, tears streaming down her face. Ryan gently held her shoulders, whispering, "It's okay, Sky. You're safe here." She jolted awake, gasping, and clung to him tightly, burying her face against his chest. He felt her entire body shaking. It wasn't the scream of a child who missed home, it was the scream of someone who had seen something truly terrifying. Ryan carried her to the living room and let her fall asleep on the couch, staying nearby in case she woke again. While she slept, he examined the wooden eagle more closely. It was old, polished smooth by years of touch, with symbols carved on the wings in patterns he didn't recognize. Ryan knew nothing about Apache culture, but even he could tell this object meant something important. Something cultural, maybe even spiritual. And if she had carried it through the desert while starving, it was likely her last connection to home. The next morning, Ryan tried calling local authorities, but Sky panicked the moment he mentioned police. She grabbed his arm and shook her head violently, whispering, "No police, no police." The terror in her eyes told him everything. Whoever she feared might be connected to law enforcement, or she believed they were. Ryan hung up gently and instead tried to piece together her story through drawings. Sky drew mountains, a small cluster of houses, and 3 women in traditional shawls. Then she drew a truck, a dark one, followed by a trail of broken lines that seemed like footsteps. The last drawing made Ryan's stomach drop. It showed Sky hiding behind a rock while 2 men searched for her, their faces shaded black. She even drew the wooden eagle in her hands. This wasn't imagination. It was memory. And if these men were still out there, they might come looking for her again. Ryan made a silent promise then. He would protect this child at any cost, even if it meant facing whoever hunted her. But he had no idea that her family was already on their way, and that their arrival would change everything. Ryan stepped aside to let the women enter, still trying to understand the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Sky clung tightly to the youngest woman, who held her with trembling hands as if she were afraid to let go. The home that had felt so quiet for the past few days was suddenly filled with soft murmurs in Apache, the sound warm and emotional. Ryan watched them, realizing just how deeply Sky had been missed. He felt relief, but also a strange ache in his chest. He had grown attached to her far more than he expected. The eldest woman introduced herself as Nadine, Sky's grandmother. Her voice carried the weight of responsibility, and Ryan sensed her strength despite her tired eyes. She explained that Sky had disappeared from their reservation after a terrifying incident. They had searched for her through forests, back roads, and nearby towns, fearing she had been taken. Ryan's heart clenched. That explained her fear, her nightmares, and why she had run from police. Sky had been living in pure survival mode. Nadine looked around Ryan's home with gratitude, recognizing he had cared for her granddaughter. Sky returned to Ryan's side, tugging gently at his sleeve, as if she didn't want him to be left out. She pointed to her drawings scattered on the coffee table, the mountains, the three women, the dark truck. Nadine's expression tightened when she saw it. The two younger women exchanged worried glances. Something unspoken lingered in the air. She remembers, Nadine murmured. Ryan leaned closer, sensing something serious. What do you mean? What happened to her? He asked quietly. Nadine hesitated, as though weighing how much to reveal. Sky reached for the wooden eagle, holding it protectively. Nadine sat down slowly, motioning for Ryan to join her. Sky is not just any child, she began, her voice low. She carries something sacred. Ryan frowned, unsure where this was going. Nadine explained that the wooden eagle wasn't a simple carving, it was a ceremonial object passed down in their family for generations. Sky was being prepared to take part in a coming-of-age ritual, one tied to their tribe's history and spiritual traditions. But before the ceremony, strangers appeared near their land, men who had been trying to acquire sacred artifacts illegally. They believed Sky knew where more items were kept. The men had attempted to intimidate the family, demanding access to tribal grounds, but were refused. A week later, Sky vanished. Nadine believed the men had tried to abduct her, but Sky escaped and ran into the wilderness, clutching the wooden eagle. Ryan felt a surge of anger at the thought of anyone hunting a child for something so precious. Nadine continued, explaining that Sky's nightmares were likely memories. The dark truck she drew was the same one seen circling the reservation days before her disappearance. The women had been chasing leads non-stop until they tracked her trail toward Flagstaff. Sky climbed into Ryan's lap, surprising everyone. She rested her head against his chest, her tiny fingers gripping his shirt. Nadine watched with soft eyes. She trusts you. That means
something, she said. Ryan felt a swell of emotion. He hadn't expected to play any role in this child's life beyond helping her survive a few days, yet now she held on to him as though he were a protector. What happens now? He asked. Nadine explained that they would take Sky home but warned him that the men might still be looking. The wooden eagle, now in Sky's hands again, held more value than Ryan realized. But before leaving, Nadine approached Ryan with a seriousness that sent a chill through him. There is another reason we came ourselves, she admitted. Sky told us something about you. Something unusual. Ryan raised an eyebrow, confused. Nadine continued, in her dreams, she said a tall man with a strong heart would save her. A man she described before ever meeting you. Ryan stared, overwhelmed by the weight of her words. Whether it was coincidence, intuition, or something deeper rooted in Apache belief, he couldn't deny the connection he felt. And as he watched Sky smile up at him, he realized his life was about to change in ways he never expected.